At this time, I have a chance to invite Mr. Leslie Bauer, the director of the White Creek Wellness Center, to take over the second part of his presentation in regard to the meal that can kill, and he will introduce a series of calorie density, and I don't want to steal his job. Mr. Leslie.
Thank you. Yesterday morning, we started with talking about how the relationship of what we do and what we eat to our mind, how we can think, how we can associate with others, and found out that there are many things we do that affect us immediately in our mind. And our mind affects, of course, how we act, our character, our relationship with others. So it's important to take into consideration those things that we eat and drink and do, because we can't function correctly in society if we don't. Then we looked at the meal that can kill, and that is we took about 10 preservatives, colorings, and so forth that you put in food if you're going to want to keep it on the shelf for a long time. And all of these things have adverse consequences in our body because they're foreign. They're not natural. So our body does not know how or what to do with them. Even when you take fats and you change them into a different type of fat, mechanically or chemically, our body doesn't know what to do with them because it's not from a natural source. It's now a man-made source. So they pass through our bloodstream, they collect in our bloodstream, they cause high cholesterol, they cause deterioration of the arteries. And so the reality is we want to eat as close to the garden as possible, or things as close from the garden as possible. Because the more processing, again, the more difficulty, the more things you have to put in them to keep them from going bad, or so they can sit on the shelf a long time. I showed a little clip from a science teacher from Maine, and he's famous for his Twinkie. Do you remember how long his Twinkie, anybody that was here, that sat on his chalkboard? Was 30 years, and it was still edible. Digestible? No. Edible? Yes. If you could take a piece of food and set it on your chalkboard and leave it there for 30 years and it doesn't lose its color, it doesn't deteriorate. It got a little hard, it was a little dry. But then he decided to do a fig Newton. And when he retired after 31 years, his fig Newton had been up there 15 years. So, if nature can't destroy it, what do you think our body can do with it? Well, all these things are causing a great change in our bodies. Now, when we look at foods, there's a real problem going on, at least in the United States, and it seems to be in the world, and that is obesity is rising. And whenever obesity rises, there are many diseases associated with being obese. So what we want to do whenever we're thinking about dieting or thinking about foods we should eat, we should consider the calorie density of the food, because our body does. So this program is how to eat more, weigh less, and live longer. This is a picture from 1954. This was in a theater similar to this, movie theater. And this was the first 3D movie that came out, so that's why everybody has glasses on. So can you see anything else in this picture that's unique or similar?
Look fairly thin, I think.
What's that?
They don't look
Yeah. Do you see a heavy person in there? No. No, you don't. It's now you go to a regular theater, not an educational theater, but if you go to a regular theater nowadays, we've got them so that you've got reclining chairs and you've got a big place so you can put your oversized Coke and your big thing of popcorn, and you could just lay there and gain weight and watch movies. So I helped a gentleman come and his wife come to Denver, Colorado from Russia, from the Ukraine, and I stayed with them a few weeks to get them orientated to our society. And one day we were coming down out of the mountain and looking over Denver, and I asked him, I says, what is it that stands out that's unique between Ukraine and the United States here? He says, two things: how heavy people were, and that you could get food anytime, anywhere, 24 hours a day. So let's consider, first of all, the essential elements of nutrition. The primary thing you need is complex carbohydrates. We'll look at that a little more. You also need fats, protein, vitamins. What would be next? Minerals. One more thing. You'll never guess. What do you think? One more thing. Water. Yeah. All our food has to be processed through water, the medium of water. So why should we eat foods that are high in complex carbohydrates? High carbohydrate foods are the highest sources of vitamin C and E, carotenoids, phytochemicals, magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins. Trace minerals also. And this is our source of energy. We get all of our energy from complex carbohydrates. Or carbohydrates, unfortunately, those don't have nutrient to supply us along with the energy. So a diet that is void or deficient in these nutrients leads to other severe dietary deficiencies. So complex carbohydrate. What makes that apple there a complex carbohydrate? Or let me ask it a different question. How could you make that apple into a simple carbohydrate? Nobody knows? Juice it. There you go. You have to start refining it. So you could start by peeling it, taking the core out, and then juicing it. And you've gone from a complex carbohydrate to actually a simple carbohydrate. So complex carbohydrates, they're literally designed for this system. They're 100% efficient. We use everything in them. Our body loves them. We function on them. We can't live without them. So when sufficient carbohydrates are available, little protein needs to be taken in. If not enough carbohydrates are eaten, then the body uses protein for energy, but it's only 58% efficient. So we lose the 42% of that protein. It's lost in the process of converting it to energy. So it becomes a byproduct, and that's very hard on our system, very hard on our kidneys. Uric acid, ammonia, many different things are produced. So it's important for us to eat a lot of complex carbohydrates. Now today I'm not going to go in and share with you what I call the protein myth, but does that apple have protein in it? Absolutely, sure. Does it have fat in it? Yes, it does. It has everything essential in that product, okay? So when you are eating plenty of complex carbohydrates, you're actually getting sufficient amount of protein. You don't need much other protein. And it's the body loves it. It's very easily handled. So when we talk about diet, because there's a lot of diets out there, the new craving is the high protein diets, low carbohydrate diets. They call them South Beach diets or LA diet or Atkins diet, those type of things. But no matter what diet you do, there is a mathematical formula for dieting. And it is, you eat less calories than you burn. So, if you do that, you will consume some of the excess calories in your body and you will lose weight. So let's look at two diets, the ideal diet on the left and the standard American diet, which we call the SAD diet, on the right. So the ideal diet is 1 to 25% fat. Now that's of the calories. And of that is 75% is unsaturated. We have 5% protein, 70 to 90% unrefined carbohydrates, mostly complex. So that is the ideal diet. Now if we look at the SAD diet, standard American diet is 37% fat, 80 to 90% of that is saturated, and 12% protein, 27% carbohydrates, and most of that is refined carbohydrates, and about 24% refined sugar. So the SAD diet on the right is a formula for sickness, for disease, for deficiencies. So carbohydrates, these are the best sources of energy for our body functions. The brain, the central nervous system, the muscles, they all use carbohydrates. They come from plant sources. They're half the calories of fat. Sugar and starches are carbohydrates. About 60% of the world are vegetarians, and the primary food of the world is sweet potatoes, a starch food. So carbohydrates are they're simple and they're easy. We have to compare refined to unrefined. Unrefined preferred, refined limited. Eat it the way it grew it. You maybe peel it or cook it. So if you increase the unrefined, unprocessed carbs as grown in nature, they're high in water, high in fiber, high in vitamins, and high in minerals. They're low in calories and calorie density. What it means by calorie density, we're going to explain that in just a little bit, but for the amount of bulk that's there, there's very little calories. So there's more bulk than calories. So that's what we talk about when we lower the calorie density. So they're fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. So these are the ideal food. Now, I was talking this afternoon with someone, and if you govern your diet correctly, you really don't have to worry about counting calories. It's a real trap to have to sit down and figure out exactly how many calories you're eating and try to govern your life around that. If you adjust your life correctly, you really don't have to be concerned with the calories. So if you start filling your diet with these types of foods, you can kind of really forget about counting calories. So you need to decrease the refined processed carbs. That's white sugar, white flour, white rice. Little or no fiber or vitamins or minerals. We call them vacant calories or empty calories, calories without nutrition. So the high in calories and calorie density, so there's very little bulk to them but many calories. Cakes, cookies, candies, pretzels, donuts. These are fat foods. Lots of fat in them also. And when you make these foods, you're going to have to preserve them somehow. Because you've mixed fats in them, you cook fats and sugars and things together. And if you're going to keep them a while, somehow you're going to have to preserve those fats from going rancid. So that's what we looked at yesterday, that BHT and BHA and different chemicals that they put in to preserve these foods for going rancid, which makes them very unpalatable. So what is calorie density? So the number of calories in any given weight of food. It's usually expressed as calories per pound. Certain foods have more packed in them, pound per pound. So there can be over 40 times difference in some foods. So easiest and the most accurate way to determine if a food will cause weight gain or weight loss. So we're looking at calorie density in foods. And whenever you start to process refined foods, you're going to get less bulk and more calories. So we're going to look at a chart with different foods and their calorie density. The food that's going to have the most is going to be 4,000 calories per pound. Now these foods are per pound. As you can see, broccoli is about 128 calories per pound. Now broccoli is just representing generally vegetables. Oranges is representing fruits in general, so about 211 calories per pound. Oatmeal 325, baked potatoes 495, so it represents the starchy areas. The red beans are 550. Why do you think red beans would be 550 calories? Well, excuse me, beans have a lot of fat in them. Beans are very nourishing food, but they have a lot of fat in them. So they're higher in calories. So whole wheat bread, 1120. And then here's, just to throw in as a comparison, here's a pound of Oreos. Is 2,197 calories per pound. Almonds, 2,600. Now almonds is representing nuts and seeds. And then olive oil. Now, olive oil is just representing all oils. Regardless of what the oil is, if you pick up any jar of oil, I don't care if it's double virgin, cold pressed, foot pressed, double organic, whatever, it doesn't matter. All oil is the same, and it is 120 calories per tablespoon, 4,000 calories per pound. Oil is the highest calorie density food there is. I know a physician there in the United States, Dr. Thrash, when she's talking about individuals wanting to lose weight, you cannot lose weight as long as you're using free oils or free fats, as this is. Because fats, first of all, are twice the calories as protein or carbohydrates. Protein and carbohydrates are 4 calories per gram, and fats are 9 calories per gram. They also, they go from fat to fat in our body. Now, do we need fats? Absolutely. But so we can get them in our nuts and seeds, but we need them in less amounts than we would the other foods. So when we're looking at calorie density, especially when you get in processed foods, this is disturbed because when you make processed foods, you concentrate those foods so you can get more in a smaller area, and they become very deceiving to our body. We have a natural mechanism in us, it's called satiety, and if you take your time and you're sitting at a meal and you're eating your meal, and you're chewing your food well, you're enjoying your meal, you're not in a rush, it's not that 15 minutes you got before you got to get back to work, but a good, enjoyable meal. You will, toward the end of the meal, you're going to get a feeling. And that feeling is a feeling of that you are satisfied. You're still a little hungry. You could eat more. And so you sit there and you try to decide if you're going to get more or not. And if you get up and get more, generally you're overeating. That feeling that you're full, but you could eat a little more, is this feeling of satiety. That is the feeling you want to have. That's what you want to recognize. That is your protector. That will govern whether you gain or lose weight. That will govern whether the food you've eaten will be of benefit to you or some of it will be harmful to you. Because if you overeat, you are not going to digest your food well. So, physical feeling, being full and satisfied, the opposite of hunger, a powerful innate survival mechanism, a physical help to deter hunger, and calories in versus calories out. Equal calorie foods don't represent equal satiety. So in other words, we get this feeling from our stomach. It's a little clip I'm going to show you. But our stomach has sensors on it that senses the bulk, how much bulk is in there, and how much calorie is in there, calorie density is in there. So they signal our brain for us to continue to eat or not eat, because otherwise we'd kill ourselves. We'd just eat ourselves to death. And when you start manufacturing foods, we can deceive our stomach. So we can get a food that is extremely high in calorie, but very low in density, or I should say in bulk. So we deceive, because our stomach says, well, there's hardly anything in there, but you've already eaten 400 calories. Here's an example of 100 calories. So let's consider this feeling of satiety. You got 2 chicken nuggets there, and you got 1 1/4 cups of vegetable lentil soup. Both are 100 calories. Which one is going to give you the feeling of satiety? Well, certainly it's going to be the lentil soup, right? It's 1 1/2 cups of lentil soup. So you see, you will get that feeling of full with less calories. But how many chicken nuggets? Now, I've never eaten a chicken nugget, so I'm assuming they're very small. They're real small, these confessions over here. They're real small. So just 2 of them is equal to 1 1/4 cups of vegetable lentil soup. So you sit down and you start eating, 10 or 12 of those, whatever. If they're small, I would probably eat a whole bucket of them before I got full. So you can see the amount of calories you get before you get that feeling of satiety. So these foods need to be high in water, high in fiber, high in nutrient. These foods lower the calorie density rate and raise the satiety rate. So you get full before you get too many calories. So again, high water, high fiber, high nutrient. That's the foods we want. We want to avoid these foods that are high in fat, high in sugar, and high in refined carbs. Some examples: 800 calories, 1 cup of cashews, or pretty much any nut, or 6 small baked potatoes. See, which one was going to give you the feeling of satiety sooner? Of course, I don't know about you, but I can't eat 6 small potatoes. But I can eat a cup of cashews. I showed this with some people last week. We had a health retreat at our place last week, and one guy says, I sit down with a bag of almonds and eat a whole bag of almonds.
The epidemic of obesity in America. It isn't that people become more self-indulgent. It isn't because they're lazier than they ever were. What's happening is that their mechanisms of satiation are being fooled.
The process starts with a range of receptors in our stomachs that help us gauge how much food we've eaten. These include stretch receptors to help measure the sheer volume of food in our stomachs. We also have density receptors to help determine the caloric density, or what we more commonly call the richness of our food. For instance, 500 calories of natural plant food fills the stomach completely, triggering both our stretch and density receptors to signal our brain that we've had enough to eat. But 500 calories of unnaturally rich or processed food fills the stomach far less, deceiving these receptors into telling our brain that we need to eat more. Even worse is 500 calories of oil, which is almost pure fat and barely triggers any response at all.
The problem with weight management in humans is that if you make these foods completely artificial, which we do today, you wind up with a problem that people have to overeat just to be satisfied.
Have to overeat just to be satisfied. So the stomach was filled with 500 calories of vegetables or natural foods. So we took broccoli, for instance. How much is 500 calories of broccoli? It was 128 calories per pound, so that's 4 pounds. So 4 pounds of broccoli will certainly fill your stomach, won't it? Now, how many pounds of olive oil would it take to get 500 calories? 4 tablespoons. So 4 pounds compared to 4 tablespoons. So now, even if you're concerning about weight gain and so forth, if you were to take broccoli, okay, let's say you're going to eat 2 pounds of broccoli, but then you put 2 tablespoons on it. You've just added 240 calories to the broccoli. So those free fats is what we want to really be careful of. Here is 2 fig Newtons. This is 140 calories compared to 1 small cantaloupe. Now, I usually, if it's a good cantaloupe, I'll eat a half a cantaloupe. And then I'll have some other, some rice or beans or something. But if I'm going to eat cantaloupe, I'll eat a half of one. But I don't even eat a whole one. So I'm only eating 70 calories out of that cantaloupe. How many fig Newtons could you eat? I don't know. I haven't, it's probably been 30 years since maybe 40 years since I've eaten a fig Newton. So, but I'm sure I could sit down and eat a package of fig Newtons. So you can see when you start processing food, it's very deceptive to your system. They're not natural, and they're highly concentrated foods. Here's 4 ounces of gummy bears. I'm assuming that's a pretty small amount. I don't even know what a gummy bear is, compared to 2-pound pineapple. I know that you can't sit down and eat a pineapple. First of all, your body would recognize the natural sugar in it and stop you from eating it all, and it's a little too much for your system, all the fiber and everything. So 200 calories, a small bag of potato chips compared to about 1.75 pounds of celery. That is 3, 6, 8 Hershey Kisses compared to 1.75 pounds of pears, good sweet pears. Pears, I mean,
Chocolate.
No. Peppers. Sweet peppers, yeah. So, and here's a little small bag of pretzels compared to 1.75 pounds of broccoli. So I'm assuming you're getting the idea, right? Yeah. So the natural things have the bulk. Those are the things that protect us. And whenever you start refining something and adding it to it, you're deceiving you and your body. So when we look at weight gain, weight loss, being able to sit down and freely eat, enjoy the meal without too much concern, we can pretty much be comfortable with anything in the green area. So left of the yellow. Yep, left of the yellow. So, and whenever you get higher in the density, you want to eat less of it. So what we do is we when people come to us to help them to eat better, get more nutritious, and control their weight, we have them sit down and eat all that raw food they want. We'll put up nice salads, and we tell them to take 2 plates. You come to the table, you sit down, you come up to the serving area, you get all that salad you want. Now, it's very important that you do this if you're concerned about it, because when you come to the table, you come in a state of hunger. That's good, but it's not a reasonable state, okay? Because your body's a little low in blood sugar. That's what's one of the things that's giving you the hunger, which is natural, normal, but you're not reasonable at that state. Because if you sit there and you look down, all the food that's up there, and you're thinking, oh man, I want some of this and this and this and this, and you go after it, and you get very little of the salad and things. And what you need is the salad.
Is the main dish. Right?
Yes. So what we have them do is come up and only get their raw food first. Take all that salad they want. Okay, nice prepared salad. Eat all that you want. And then come and sit down and eat that. Now you've satisfied the initial craving of the body. You've raised your blood sugar up. And now you go back up and you get some of the other stuff. Now you're reasonable. Now you think, well, I really don't need 4 cups of beans. 1 cup would do. So you look at your meal in a much more reasonable state. That helps a lot of people. You want to stay away from, you need to, a lot of people can't handle the breads. And when you do use bread, you should have a good natural whole grain bread. And don't eat a lot of it, because it is also concentrated calories. And of course, stay away from Oreos. And eat very little of the nuts and seeds. And preferably, we teach people not to use any free oils at all. They're very, very hard on the system. Oil is harder on a diabetic than sugar is. So if you have heart disease or diabetes or cancer, you do not want to be using the free oils at all. So on any given day, I was supposed to have more stuff in there, but it looks like my side got changed. But about 29% of men and about 49% of women are trying to lose weight. It's a $33 billion industry in the United States a year.
And finally, the biggest people. America has now become the fattest nation in the world. Congratulations. Nearly 100 million Americans are today either overweight or obese. That's more than 60% of all U.S. adults. Since 1980, the total number of overweight and obese Americans has doubled, with twice as many overweight children and 3 times as many overweight adolescents. The fattest state in America? Mississippi, where 1 in 4 people are obese. Obesity is now second only to smoking as a major cause of preventable death in America, with more than 400,000 deaths per year associated with related illnesses.
So sometimes individuals ask me about, maybe I need to gain weight. I'm too thin. And there's no disease associated with being too thin. Being too thin doesn't cause other diseases, but there are many, many diseases associating with being too heavy. Cancer and many other diseases. So here it is, 29% of men and 44% of women are trying to lose weight. So from 1986 to 2000, the prevalence of Americans with a body mass of 40 or above, that's about 100 pounds overweight, quadrupled to from 1 in 200 to 1 in 50. So is obesity an increased risk of death from cancer? As you can see, the greater you are overweight, the greater your risk of cancer, and especially with women. Women have a much easier time to gain weight and lose weight, and because their bodies are designed just a little different. A man has 40% more muscle, 40% more blood, and a woman has 2 layers of fat under her skin where a man has 1. Of course, that gives her the nice, round, pretty figure, but also then makes her more susceptible to gaining weight. And one of the things that causes weight gain is what we looked at yesterday, and that's toxins. When you're taking toxins into the body does not know what to do with it. The way the body handles it is it stores it in fat. So it will generate fat to store the waste. Just recently we had a lady from West Virginia. I gave some meetings there a while ago, and they wanted to come to White Creek Wellness Center. But they couldn't come for a while, and she asked me what to do. And I says, well, probably the best thing you could do is start drinking lots more water. You should drink about 3 quarts a day, at least. And with her weight, she should drink about a gallon a day. So we're talking a good 3 liters of water a day. And by the time she came, which was about a month later, she had already lost 20 pounds. And all she did was increase the amount of water. So what did the water do? It allowed the body to flush the toxins out. So the body could release the toxins from the fat. The water carried the toxins out of the body released the fat. So she lost weight by drinking more water. So here's the trends in the United States. They're dangerous trends. The first column is 2 to 5 years old. The second column, 6 to 11. Third column, 12 to 19 years. And then the blue, red, green, and gold are represented years. So the years from 1971 to 74 are the blue. The red is 76 to 80. The green is 88 to 94, and the gold is 99 to 2000. So you can see the prevalence of overweight children is increasing over this period of time. We saw that also with allergies. I don't know if you remember, but I gave some statistics about allergies in Canada. They're as much as 120% more than in the United States. And all these additives that are added to processed foods cause allergies in individuals. And did you notice that it is also in a great trend up? This is very interesting study. This researcher was looking for what they called the fountain of youth gene. They were looking for a gene that someone might have different if they live longer. My grandfather lived to 106. So they would be looking in him to see if he had a gene that was different than everybody else. But what they found was something very interesting. They fed the mice 60% of their normal calorie allotment. So they lowered it. They lowered their amount of calories they ate a day by 40%. Okay? Those mice lived 16 months more than normal, 40 months. That was a 40% longer lifespan by doing what? Eating less. Eating less calories. What happened is that the body needs enzymes to digest food, to metabolize food. When you ate less, then the body didn't need all those enzymes to digest food. So those enzymes were used by the body to rearrange the cell structure, the DNA structure in the cell. And that caused that cell to be able to live 40% longer. Now, this is also something that is associated with eating more raw food, because raw food has its own digestive enzymes in them. Once you start cooking food at 160 degrees, you destroy the digestive enzymes that are in that food. So now your body has to supplement, produce those enzymes. And we have a limited amount of time. Many older folks that come to us as they get older, have difficulty with digestion. And what we suggest is they use a digestive enzyme. We have an enzyme we use that has all of the broad spectrum of digestive enzymes in them. And that helps them a lot. So, longevity, living longer, is dependent on actually eating less calories. Here's looking at 3 groups of long-lived people in the world. Sardinia, Italy, Loma Linda, California, Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa, Japan is the longest living people on earth at this time as a society. So in Loma Linda, they have a healthy social circle and they eat nuts. In Italy, it's fava beans, high polyphenol wine. And in Okinawa, no Thai emergencies. They use a lot of turmeric and the likability of the people. So now we want to look and see what's common between, let's say, Italy and Loma Linda, and Japan and Loma Linda, and Japan and Italy. So between the Loma Linda and Italy, they both use whole grains. In Okinawa and Loma Linda, it's high soy, no alcohol. And between the Italy and Japan, it's much sunshine and gardening. And what's common between all three of these societies is that they have a very great family life, no smoking. They have a plant-based diets. They exercise and eat legumes, and they have a good social life. So, what we are, of course, encouraging here is a plant-based diet. I don't even consider meat or dairy products as a food. It's more of a problem to the body than it is a necessity to the body. So it may taste good, but the body has a very hard time handling it. So when you look at the plant-based foods, that's loved by the body. It's a perfect food for the body to function. So we need to focus on these foods, increase unrefined, unprocessed carbs as grown in nature, high in water, fiber, vitamins, minerals, low in calories and calorie density, fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and legumes. So now I want to give you an example of what you could do to take a normal meal and still feel full, but have more vitamins, more minerals, and much less calories. So we're going to take 700 calories. This is 4 cups of whole wheat. What are those, noodles? Whole wheat noodles? Okay, that's 700 calories. What could you do to lower the calorie density of this food and give it more bulk? Well, let's replace 2 cups. And we'll replace the 2 cups with 2 cups of cooked vegetables. Right? So we just lowered the calories 38%. From 800 calories to 400, or 700 calories to 430 calories. So it's easy to do. Leave off less of the processed foods and more of the natural foods. And you can throw your concern for calorie intake to the wind, as you might say.